Good morning, everyone.
Well, good morning, everyone. Should I go ahead and do the intro now? Yes, I think I will. It is an intro that truly comes straight from the heart, especially after finally solving a persistent and frustrating technical audio issue that has plagued this show for quite some time now. We conducted a thorough internal investigation, and it appears most likely that it was professional Russian hackers. These Russian hackers attempted to breach our systems, but they only succeeded in delaying us by about 5 or 6 minutes. So let's just say that compared to our team,
They still
have to improve exactly.
manageable. You
Know that by saying this, we've
also had some problems with hackers from Seattle, but that's another story, right?
Yes, we actually went ahead and created a dedicated slide for an attack we had from Seattle on Microsoft Avenue, I think just yesterday, but we'll tell you all about it.
Exactly. In the meantime, good morning and good morning to everyone. Welcome back after quite a while, and especially after the excitement of BeConnect Day. You know that we are finally starting to publish the full videos of all the BeConnect Day sessions. If you head over to our website, which I should remind you is hosted on our official YouTube channel. Let me also take a moment to remind you to subscribe to the channel, just like the real YouTube streamers do. You'll find all the videos, including the very latest uploaded videos, right there on the homepage. You'll also find the BCD14 playlist with there you go, perfect. Now it's actually telling us, oh, even YouTube itself is giving us its own opinion now. That is absolutely perfect. What is it? That is truly wonderful.
It's there. It just needed a moment.
No, you know why? Exactly. It needed to tell me that I had to pay something to change.
That is exactly right.
Anyway, you will be pleased to know that the very first sessions have already been officially published and are ready for you. You can start enjoying them right now by watching them whenever you like. We would also like to kindly remind you that in the video descriptions, you will also find the specific link to download the presentation slides that our speakers have made available for everyone to access and use. Okay, so start watching the videos, and above all, we ask you to give us those famous likes, just like the well-known streamers always do, because it really does increase the visibility of our channel.
Yes, that is true, because we also want to get the YouTube background for reaching 1 million views. For now, we just have this papier-mâché one, right?
If we continue along at this current sluggish rate, we will probably reach the significant milestone of 1 million total views in a few millennia. But if you could find the time to give us just a few more likes and some extra support, it certainly would not hurt our overall progress at all. Sorry, we have the tendency to get a little bit carried away with our own excitement sometimes.
So, first of all, let me introduce those present besides Luca Fabri and myself, whom you've known for a couple of years now. There's a new person who has only been announced so far, because in reality, the new Microsoft fiscal year is just starting out during this period. So he ghosted us. And so here's the little ghost of Roberto Ferrazzi, who I think will come to talk to us and bring his 47 slides about Copilot next month. So let's get started and do it ourselves. Come August, we'll carry out the BCH, and then
Exactly. We suggested Roberto tell his new boss to reschedule the meeting due to the BCH, but it seems that
this specific young man
preferred to talk to his new boss instead of us, and we just can't understand why. Anyway, that's fine.
This always takes priority.
Exactly. There are some new updates just for a bit of a change, since we always have plenty of them around. Let's start with managing the SharePoint catalog, so we can actually start creating, for those of you who still have a working SharePoint, but this little thing. Now,
see it in the next slide.
I am just throwing it out there for now, but you will understand much better a bit later on exactly why you can finally start creating your own custom site groups. Now, what does that actually mean for you? It means that finally you can start grouping all of your SharePoint sites according to the specific logic you might have internally, whether that is for your overall company organization, your own personal way of thinking, or really whatever you might prefer. And in this way, you gain much more control. Once you have everything set up, you will be able to apply specific rules and perform various operations on groups of sites at once. This is an interesting and powerful feature that allows you to have all your sites of a certain type grouped together in one place. By organizing your workflow this way, you can make significant changes and updates much more quickly and efficiently than handling them individually.
Will you be needing a standard license, or will you require something specific like the E9 license?
No, it's very simple. SharePoint Advanced Management.
Ah, I see.
So you just need to have SharePoint Advanced Management. You just need a Copilot license. Perfect. And in theory, you have this kind of functionality.
Okay, very good.
That is exactly right. And the interesting thing is that you can also group these elements with the extension attribute from Inter. So let's just say it's a very interesting and new feature that can assist with your management workflow.
Even if it is simply to understand who might be responsible for a particular site, because sometimes if you're looking at thousands of sites, you never know who owns a particular site. You have to start digging, check the owner, see who's making changes. But with this kind of classification, it makes sense.
That is exactly right. Still closely related to the broader SharePoint ecosystem, in this specific case, OneDrive, the service is currently transitioning its domain over to Microsoft Cloud. Consequently, anyone who had previously enabled the legacy URL format, meaning contosomysharepoint.com, will now be required to enable the new onedrive.cloud.microsoft domain to ensure continued access. So it's really more of a specific setting for those who handle, for example, digital security, user access, conditional access, or network management, maybe filters on proxies or other things like that.
But Luca, I remember at one point I had actually set up a specific security rule for a client, or rather, to be exact, the network team had set up a rule to allow people to access only their own OneDrive accounts. And so back with the old URL format, there was the company name, the tenant name, a dash, and then sharepoint.com. And in that way, you effectively limited access only to the corporate OneDrive. However, with this new change, you no longer have that explicit reference available. It is just Contoso, unless there is something like contoso.onedrive.cloud.microsoft.
Well, now, I think that is a really good point.
There is a specific section of the URL that is likely linked to the tenant after the OneDrive cloud part. I hadn't even considered that possibility.
I do not either, because the reason is,
as of today, you can control access to SharePoint Online and OneDrive by using the specific tenant name.sharepoint.com or the tenant name-.sharepoint.com format for the tenant's OneDrive. All right, we will now see how this gets implemented in the system.
Speaking of OneDrive, there's a potential slide I didn't include because they're updating the entire web section to add a series of features, especially regarding search convenience. So a set of predefined searches that anyone can save to look for all documents of a certain type, all metadata of a certain type, etc., for the web section. I didn't add it yet because right now it's unclear whether it's in preview or if it's already an item on the roadmap. So basically, some people already consider it in review, while others say it's still on the roadmap. So in a few months or a few weeks, OneDrive Web will change. There will be a sort of chat refresh in terms of how it looks and feels.
Right? Yes.
By the way, let's say hi to Enrico. Greetings to you. Moving on to another point that is still related to OneDrive. As you probably know, Microsoft has been phasing out the use of traditional shortcuts for several years now. They are promoting the widespread adoption of shortcuts directly within OneDrive and are trying to minimize as much as possible the use of the old system, where it would automatically create the entire company's folder structure for you. Do you remember OneDrive? Yes, the difference between sync
and the shortcut.
Exactly, sync and shortcut. Sync, let's say they're trying to put it on the back burner a bit because it has a whole series of disadvantages compared to OneDrive. So OneDrive has the advantage that if you set up your PC again, it's already ready for you. If you open it from your smartphone, it's already there, so it follows you much more. Whereas the other one was a PC setting. If you had to redo your PC, you had to set everything up from scratch. But what is happening right now is that they've obviously realized that by using a lot of shortcuts, you end up with all of them in the root of your OneDrive. And maybe that's not very convenient to look at because they get mixed up with your personal folders, obviously always because they think about these things before implementing them. They especially hate them.
And after that controversial slide, not this one.
No, not really. But today I would have to say that my standards are a bit low, perhaps quite a bit low. And so after making a few million different people try this thing out for themselves, they eventually realized, it really should be much more convenient to group them all together. Consequently, this brand new feature finally came out to group all your shortcuts into a single dedicated folder, which seems like a really good idea to me. Yes.
You can choose where you want them. Yes.
In the shortcut folder or my file.
Yes, that is quite correct.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that is exactly right. Yes, yes.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, that is exactly right.
Exactly. So we'll remove all the shortcuts and we'll have a ton of pre-created custom folders.
Let's see, I haven't used it yet, to be honest. I still have to.
He'll decide they're aesthetically ugly, and he will remove every single one of them.
Existing shortcuts are not moved, so what you have stays as is. You'd have to detach it and then reconnect it. That makes sense, so as not to cause issues. Maybe it's more convenient that way. Here,
you went back.
I went back, right? It's there twice. We need to remove it.
But I'll take care of it before putting it in.
A perfectly identical duplicate produced by Fabri.
No worries, but if the duplication was just at a glance, my mistake, sorry. So this is a powerful and highly anticipated new security feature regarding multi-admin approval within the Intune environment designed to strengthen security. And clearly it was made available just a few months ago, earlier this year. Essentially, this process requires that at least two different Intune administrators must manually approve operations that are, in quotes, highly sensitive and mission critical from the standpoint of their operational sequence. And in this specific case, now multi-admin approval is also being applied to call graphs. Consequently, you can now create a secure access token.
The incredibly destructive ones? Absolutely all of them.
Generally speaking, if you want to know, the answer is clearly yes. This is especially true when you are performing a specific operation that falls directly under the EMA category, particularly those considered very sensitive in terms of their sequence.
It's the same type of operation. Whether you do it from the graph or from the graphical user interface, EMA is triggered.
Now, EMA is triggered, exactly. So this is a new feature as of June.
Some people might remember this while others may not, but you likely recall that several months ago there was a major cyber attack on a company where, without using any kind of malicious software or a specific virus, nothing, they managed to get in. They successfully took over a high-level global admin account, or at least an Intune admin account, went deep into the system, and systematically wiped everything out. I don't know if you remember the details, but they completely wiped out the entire company using tools that were totally legitimate and not illegal at all. Legitimate, and this sparked the question, how could something like this happen? Is just one user enough to do this? The answer was yes. This operation was already possible because it was already available, but it hadn't been activated, so they got in, wiped everything, and that was it. And from there, this topic started to come up in a somewhat more, let's say, significant way.
Yes, that's when they broadened the scope to also cover scripts that appear in application tokens. Okay, now this next slide is the new feature that Luca really liked. Actually, it doesn't seem to be a new feature. It's an update to the Microsoft documentation that dates back to April 2026, so a few months ago. In an official statement, Microsoft clarified that these trials have a detailed series of specific limits that are carefully applied, for example, at the individual user group level within the system. What does that mean? It means that trials now have a 300 gigabyte storage space limit. This space is actually not per user, so it applies to all users in the trial tenant. Then this storage pool covers OneDrive, SharePoint Online, and Exchange Online. So all the objects that end up in the tenant basically contribute to filling up this 300 gigabyte space. As we experienced firsthand this morning, once you reach 300 gigabytes, you hit a wall.
So since these slides were originally located in a test tenant,
we were completely and utterly forced to
move them to edit them. And in the next few days, together with Luca, we'll find a solution.
Now we'll find a solution. Wait a second. It looks like someone is actually writing to us right now. Oh no, wait, this must be Alessio because Jumbo, I really think that's him. And he is talking about OneDrive. To be more precise, he's specifically asking us to talk about OneDrive Photo. I have to admit, I'm really not that familiar with OneDrive Photo at all, so I might need a bit of help understanding how it works. Oh no, but what is OneDrive Photo? It escapes me. So if you could clarify this question for us, because I didn't quite understand, or at least the reference is escaping me. Oh, I see what you mean, that IntelliFrame feature. Okay, then it makes sense. There is something brand new on the way. An innovative new feature is coming very soon, once again for Teams Rooms. And the IntelliFrame in Microsoft Teams Rooms is set to improve quite significantly and noticeably because information will start to be managed and optimized by advanced artificial intelligence technology as well. So there is a lot to look forward to. It really should be coming soon. It absolutely has to come, hopefully. It's something I haven't tried yet because it's a new feature that's currently rolling out. This offers much better framing, so users are identified with much greater accuracy. People recognition, meaning the identification of people and the label that is assigned to them. We'll see later that there's something new about this as well. And you also get a much better perspective of your meetings, along with a better response process. Obviously, this functionality requires a Microsoft Teams license, but that is to be expected because these features are absolutely essential.
Major features.
So then, shall we take some time to talk about that automated phone agent system?
Now it is finally time for us to start getting truly hands-on, specifically within the Teams phone environment, where it will be possible to provide full voice capabilities to the agents who are registered with Copilot. This was a feature that previously could only be achieved through Microsoft Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So the Microsoft Teams voice call was seamlessly routed to the Dynamics 365 Contact Center platform. And from there, you could finally give a voice to the bot created with Copilot. Now, however, it is possible to do this directly within Microsoft Teams without needing to have Dynamics Contact Center. This is part of Frontier, which means you need to enable the user for these features. In short, you need to enable the tenant for the Frontier features, which are basically the preview features of artificial intelligence with Copilot and Copilot Studio. And at this point, it will be.
So essentially, it's a bot agent within Teams Phone, just to clarify how the system works in broad terms. We'll need to test it out for ourselves as well. I think we'll do a few sessions about it at some upcoming conferences. Luca?
If they
accept us. Anyway, we'll be talking about this next year. Because a standard phone call is essentially an anonymous interaction, meaning it is not a specific registered user making the call. The bot running within this particular context consumes Copilot credits as if it were an unlicensed user. Consequently, the more frequently the phone system is utilized, the higher the total pay-as-you-go costs will become for the organization. So that's a small detail to keep in mind, but it can do a lot of things, that's for sure.
Sorry, Raffaele, isn't it also because Copilot Studio agents are custom agents and therefore are billed?
Yes, well, but if we look at this, since you're connecting it so, but if instead you had a conversational bot, if you have the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, you can use the conversational bot.
From what I have seen so far, custom agents are always billed. However, if you decide to use the standard agents, let's say, for instance,
those ones there.
No, they're included in all licenses, but if there's a custom agent, you typically have to pay for it. Whereas if you do it, you still go to the studio, but those are just details, but there's still a cost.
of course. But this is quite nice because this specific type of approach will allow those who already have a Teams phone environment set up to actually create a comprehensive management system with a custom touch center, allowing them to access all necessary information, documentation, and even schedule a formal appointment, all automatically with an environment that's already ready and that you're not paying for. Setting up a contact center, maybe even Microsoft's own or a third-party system that uses artificial intelligence to do these things, comes with an initial cost. But here you already have it ready to go because it's
the significant initial setup time, a steep learning curve to master. There are many aspects to consider. We should also keep in mind that Microsoft is now making it possible for users to utilize basic bot functionality directly on auto attendance. Let's take a closer look at what is already widely available to everyone right now, where you have the ability to, for example, easily add various documents or external web links. The underlying system then manages these resources to understand what kind of specific answers and helpful information it needs to provide to the users. To users. I've already tried this myself, and I have to say it works quite well. The voice synthesis part is unfortunately still not very well supported in the Italian language. So if someone speaks with a heavy English accent, it almost feels like a complete joke. Very much like a classic stereotypical English butler accent that is actually making fun of me. It really seems quite intentional and deliberate. That's actually the case because the Italian part still isn't very well supported. But if you ask it questions, it answers based on the documents you've uploaded. And honestly, it only takes 4 clicks. So it's very, very convenient. You definitely need to play around with it. It's still in beta mode, so there's definitely room for improvement, but it seems very promising to me. We're starting
to actually have a contact center platform fully integrated right in. Yes.
You always have the Dynamics 365 platform available if you want to scale up to truly stratospheric and advanced enterprise functions with some incredibly powerful and amazing capabilities. Otherwise, with the standard so-called basic core functions that Microsoft Teams gives you, well, you definitely start to get some very interesting results. Yes, that is quite good. And just like that, there you go.
So this announcement just came out. I've also included the references below for you. Basically, in the coming months, native Teams phones will be migrated. So the ones with the app that are based on Android, not the SCP gateways. The native Teams phones will be migrated from the Teams Admin Center portal to the management portal for meeting rooms. So phase 1 has just started and all the guides have been released. The transition process is now starting. So you can already go ahead and view them in a specifically dedicated category in the Pro Management portal. PMP refers to the Teams Room Pro Management portal. Starting around August, you will see over there that you will be able to select from the various phones, create update waves, view all the current updates for those phones, and manage your Teams phones with the same level of flexibility for updates that you currently have with the Meeting Room Pro license. It is expected that starting in September, it will no longer be a supported option to configure and manage native Teams phones within the Teams Admin Center. So what needs to be done here? Actually, there's nothing you need to do. You just need to learn how to use the new Meeting Room Pro portal. If you didn't have Meeting Room Pro before, now you'll have not only Teams phones in there, but you'll also see that shared spaces and lobby displays will be included as well. You'll manage everything there, so you need to check the firmware because the firmware must be updated to handle this change, since the Microsoft environment will send commands to the devices. Using features that will only be available in the new firmware. After that, well, you'll have to learn to use a new portal, but that's how it is, and that's what we have to accept.
What's one more portal anyway?
What's the big deal? Just like that, all of a sudden.
I keep wondering if one day they'll remove the Teams Admin Center and move everything to the new one, right? I have no visibility. Then,
for now, this is a portal that allows you to easily manage your connected devices, namely devices that currently have device firmware installed on them. Because the SAP gateway phones you'll still currently see over there, at least for now. I just don't see how they could be successfully moved over here.
I don't know.
I've
Stopped asking myself these questions. Okay, so this is something entirely new, and in some ways, it is even a bit unsettling, if you will. But after all, we all live in these complex worlds. In these dark and uncertain times, we find ourselves in a situation where, in theory, the digital facilitator carefully listens to every single word that's being said during the meeting. And if you happen to ask specific questions that no one else answers, he suddenly pops up to assist you. So it begins the process of listening and resolving various knowledge problems. Like when someone asks a specific question, who exactly performed this thing or that thing or the other one? It's like having an assistant who jumps in and says, "Oh, I know." But
even by voice, not just in chat. If certain things are mentioned during the meeting, it takes it upon itself to handle the research.
yes, exactly. I mean, it listens to you, but actually it uses the transcription, right? And in theory, it should provide you with answers. So it would be fascinating to ask curious questions, maybe even a bit tricky, like, can you tell me, I have recently heard that
That very specific person
said something to someone else in the hallway.
If you give wrong information, clearly Cobalt will call you out and say, no, look,
last week
during
one of the MVP calls, a specific question was asked regarding the upcoming end of support for a certain feature that isn't public yet. And this topic was discussed by the group. The facilitator popped up and said, no, there's no evidence that this feature is out of support, because according to the official documentation, he even took the trouble to check that it wasn't official. And in fact, it wasn't official because they were talking about something that still had to be announced. So yes, he really acted like a know-it-all.
Oh, well, I suppose that is just how it goes.
But you can't bully him, because maybe you could bully the know-it-all, right? In some way, he says, no, nothing. There will not even be that specific part of satisfaction anymore. Oh, well. It changes significantly because it is not just the portals that change. The interfaces for the other users change as well, and the entire Teams meeting experience will be completely revamped. But in any case, there is a clear logic behind it all. One of the primary reasons was that the leave button was, quite curiously, located very close to some other frequently used buttons. Exactly. And so evidently it must have happened. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made this change, that people, instead of clicking in one place, clicked just a bit over and ended up dropping the whole call. But objectively, a redesign makes sense. In fact, it makes sense for the leave button to be up there. At the top right, separated, and the controls, which were a bit scattered before, are being redesigned and reorganized. Basically, you could tell that things had been added one piece at a time, and it was time for a bit of a refresh. In my opinion, this kind of update makes sense. It really does. Anyway, that's something we'll all experience soon enough. We'll see. The user interface and layout for taking screenshots and sharing your screen is undergoing a significant transformation. I am going to leave it up to each and every one of you to decide for yourselves whether you personally prefer the new or the old version.
Let's just say that now you have to make one more click with the new version. Whereas before, you would just click share, select the desktop, and it would start sharing. Now there's one extra click you have to make. In my opinion, they did it because otherwise people weren't so...
Raffaele, sorry, when you clicked share, did it ask if you wanted to share a specific app or the whole screen?
Yes.
Wait, wasn't that a direct file share?
Yes, of course, but you would click share, select the screen, and then you would start sharing that screen. But now you have to select the screen and then press share. There's one more click.
Now, I finally understand exactly why I was seeing so many people writing in English. It's simply because the Google Chat feature inside the studio shows you all the translated stuff automatically. So basically what's happening is that these people are writing in English. It really feels like we've gone completely worldwide now, right? Right, sorry, just give me a brief moment to take this in, because as you can clearly see for yourself, absolutely everything here is in English.
But is there a specific little icon that indicates that to you?
But I just saw it now, sorry.
It's
time for your coffee, Luca. Go get it.
Let's hurry up, otherwise there won't be time for exchange.
What a shame. Automatic call recording and transcription. So this is a feature that was objectively missing from the platform. Why? Because over time, they've added a lot of features typical of the call center and contact center world, like queue up. Then other features that are there or are coming, that's fine. But in any case, let's say the path in that direction was pretty well laid out and was moving forward quite well. Then there was this glaring gap. It's true that it's not a feature everyone needs every day, but objectively, recording and transcription were missing. So this feature will be coming. Based on my current understanding of the situation, it is not a legally valid recording. So it is not my FID 2 compliant. Essentially, it fails to adhere to that specific kind of regulatory compliance. But in the meantime, you have it, so it starts to become a feature that maybe before you had to rely on the classic third-party product for. This is an interesting new feature. Obviously, it requires Teams Premium, but that's fair, objectively.
To be able to view the recording, they'll make it available to you because they'll deliver it to you through
the QA. But still, let's say it's a feature that has its own purpose.
They're not interested in compliance, but they do want to have a history they can review for internal use. So yes, that's perfectly fine.
Exactly. So there you have it. This is good. This is an interesting feature that's coming. This one.
I added myself. That is exactly right. There is a certain, basically, whenever we have a collaborative business meeting and it is captured and recorded through the system, that specific recording or all of that valuable data can be securely kept for your future reference. Why exactly is this so important for us? Since the original transcription eventually expires and the full video recording also expires over time, we often find ourselves wanting to keep a concise summary or a helpful recap for future reference. This specific part of the process can be effectively regulated because while standard audio recordings, video recordings, and their corresponding transcriptions are already strictly regulated under our current policy, we could also choose to regulate the long-term retention of AI-generated recap data. By doing this, these summaries will be formally included, ensuring that even after the primary files are deleted, the essential insights remain accessible and compliant with our standards for information governance. It will be released now in August, so there should be something more, a policy, something where we can specify how long all those items in the menus will essentially remain. Within the recap recording, so meeting recap, this part too could be, or rather is, useful because those things, by staying in your chat, can be accessed by Copilot. So if needed, you might want to regulate this as well.
Yes, this is one of those settings that could become important to configure when creating new tenants or setting up a new client settings. We don't know what the default will be, so it could be important to know how it will work. It's
interesting to know that we're starting to think about what to do with AI-generated recaps. Also because later on, when we might be able to talk about Exchange, I'll tell you about the attacks that are carried out on the agents that summarize emails. Because
no more attacks, but we won't be done by September.
Yes, I know. That's why I brought it up now, because there won't be time later.
Okay, I added this specific one myself. It is particularly fascinating because it connects very closely with what we were discussing earlier regarding IntelliFrame, and I believe it is quite an interesting feature to explore. Meanwhile, Teams will allow you to see the names of participants in a call when you hover over their faces. So if I hover over the faces of different people, their names will appear. This is very useful when we have meetings with, say, 4 people, and maybe you don't know the names of all of them. The interesting thing is, if a user hasn't completed onboarding for face recognition, which let's say 99% of people haven't, other users can manually add tags to help participants understand who they're talking to. And
who knows what I'll add here?
I know, and that's where new scenarios open up.
But why
are we Italians the ones who think about these things? Because abroad, everyone is much more by the book.
You see, the main issue they are facing is that they don't have a proper place to test their software in Italy. So they really should come all the way here to test it properly.
BeConnected and our.
Exactly, because just imagine for a moment what could potentially happen when I know this guy's name is Mario Rossi, but I simply don't like him at all. It could lead to some serious issues. And I go and put a tag on him and I can write whatever I want on it. Do you have any idea what could happen?
Yes, but it will definitely happen because someone might think they did it just for themselves, but actually everyone can see it. Still, it's a very useful feature. So
the idea is exceptionally clever and well conceived. But the significant concern is that it's a tool that could be potentially explosive in the wrong hands. If someone clicks on it and the exact text that I have written suddenly appears on the screen.
We will just have to wait and see. We will see.
We'll see. This thing opens up wonderful, wonderful scenarios, all right. And then everyone can imagine for themselves. Now, here is another useful thing to keep in mind. If you happen to be using the PowerPoint Live feature, which means you are not just sharing your entire screen like I am doing here, but instead you are specifically using PowerPoint Live, and then someone makes some important changes to the slides, you have the ability to simply reload PowerPoint Live directly. This means you can update everything instantly without having to stop and start over again from the very beginning. This is a great new feature.
In
sense that maybe someone is editing the slide that's about to come up and they tell you, look, update it for a moment and you don't have to start over.
Nice.
I noticed the edit by the diva who has a ballet pin instead of an earring, but okay.
Beyond all of that as well.
There's also artificial intelligence. It even gave her the right shadow, so it's wonderful.
And the nice thing is, for those who say, but where did I put the pin I had here?
He puts it on the kid, right?
Regarding that meeting recap, so just a little bit earlier, you were talking about those meeting recaps, and you know that old legacy application we used to use. There was an application that was dedicated to meetings that had taken place, and it was replaced by events. Okay, so they've changed the application. Now there's this new application called Meeting Recap, but it only has one purpose. Honestly, I really like the previous one, but let's see if we'll be able to get it back. Its main purpose is to have all the recaps from every meeting in one place or to filter them. So it's very focused on recaps, not on managing meetings. I really liked the previous one a lot, but they explained it with event. Anyway, let's say these are some of the new features.
There's a wonderful self-help group. We know about this one. But every now and then someone sees the BeConnected. Here's the QR code. You can request access, and it's a community, a real community. Actually, it's a Teams chat where people share issues mainly related to the Teams phone world, Teams meeting room. But not only that,
each and every
now and then requests pop up.
Yes, that is exactly right.
And as a result, what you ultimately get is this.
Bullied in a rather unusual way. If
there's something you talked about at the BeConnected Dagwar, it's only right to get bullied, ourselves included.
Especially for us. See.
Anyway, join if you'd like, if you are interested, exactly.
Let's waste some more time before we get to Exchange.
And so it is well.
Been stagnant for quite a while in terms of new developments, but actually some pretty important things have come out. This new feature is network data security. Essentially, the specific labels you apply with Microsoft Purview and the underlying logic behind them. So if you have dynamic labeling policies and configurations, etc., these labels can now also be used to granularly filter and manage outgoing network traffic. This functionality needs to be paired either with Entra Global Secure Access or with a comprehensive list of supported products, including, for example, various third-party security solutions and integrated platforms.
Netscope is a leading security platform.
Quite widespread, exactly.
And
the interesting thing is that clearly you integrate Purview with network security. Once you've done this integration, you can actually apply both data protection policies and data loss prevention to your network conversations. And if we go to the next slide, Luca, whenever you're ready.
This is a session that Roberto Tafuri did at the BCD, which will be published soon. Perfect.
And as I was saying, this integration is especially interesting for filtering conversations with artificial intelligences that are not Copilot, for example. So you can filter network traffic with ChatGPT or whatever cloud service is being used. And if there is data within those conversations that is protected by your sensitivity labels and so on, you can actually filter the conversation. And you can also, at a later time, if you have any reason, analyze the conversations and find relevant information for your research, let's say on fluency, with what you are doing at that moment. So conversations with AI and with external applications actually become in some way purview objects on which you can also perform searches.
I'm not sure if you put it on the previous slide since I didn't see it. These functions are tied to Purview Enterprise, so you need to press the button. Simply click the little rocket icon located right here to switch to Enterprise. You will need to link it to a specific paper user account, such as an Azure subscription. And please note that all of these advanced functions are paid features.
Here are the latest, the last things I saw, and I was looking at it yesterday. You need an E7 for the user. Or alternatively, a Purview. No, I didn't put it on the slide because
the one with Netscope is paid. I'm sure of that because.
But as I was saying, what I've seen is that now, as it stands, you need either the E7 or possibly the Purview 5 as a license, which I didn't even know existed, but one of the two. The
Purview 5, which is actually the Purview suite. You have it with the 5. You already have it with the 5. The number 7 should not incorporate any additional functions. The
7 doesn't add global secure access for you.
So you just need to have you need global secure access if you use global secure access.
Exactly.
Because it includes the Intra suite. If you use, for example, Netscope, so you're integrated with Netscope, you have to pay for it. Maybe with intra-global access, maybe with secure access, maybe it's not paid, maybe the traffic is. But it was only added recently because before it was only with SCOP and with iBoss.
And the last one, so let's basically wrap up with this. So with this tool here, you can integrate and control both AI chats. You can control, this is interesting, cloud storage. So things like Dropbox, Google Drive, Box, which are always a headache when you want to block them somehow or put them under policy. You can control emails and attachments from cloud providers, including Gmail, Google Forms, and even various social media services such as Facebook. So it's a remarkably sophisticated and deep level of granular control. It actually extends all the way down into individual conversations.
In some ways, it overlaps with Defender for Cloud Apps from certain perspectives, which are actually separating and moving us forward. And for all the protection part, it's being integrated into Purview from Defender.
The assumption here is that you've done your homework, you've implemented Purview and the labels and everything else.
That's the foundation, the starting point.
Always, yes. This is just to say that now it's possible to create DLP policies that are limited to specific devices. I could use dynamic groups that say, okay, this policy applies only to Windows, only to Mac OS, only to iOS, and so on. This is something new because before there wasn't this kind of flexibility. And the next thing is, yes, with Preview, it's possible to decide that certain emails coming from outside are not considered as grounding for Copilot. This means applying this dynamic rule that says everything coming from outside is not considered a useful object because it contains information for Copilot Chat or Microsoft 365 Copilot. And at that point, that is somehow ignored by the system, and clearly all the emails internal to your organization, on the other hand, are still used.
So
is this a DLP policy, this DLP policy with the condition?
On the contrary, is it a DLP policy or the opposite?
It's a new condition that allows you to say all external users, all emails from external users.
Because now the protection, that is when you are working on Copilot, you can act either with sensitivity labels, where you specifically remove the extract right from the label itself, and so Copilot cannot access that object at all. But this approach previously meant having to manually modify those labels. And above all, you know that a label you modify is not applied retroactively to documents that already have that label applied to them. So you would have to open every single one of those documents and update the label manually, which was a major problem for administrators. And so with the introduction of a DLP policy, you can now simply say that if there are certain labels on a document, Copilot must ignore it entirely, providing a much more efficient and scalable solution for your organization. This ensures that your data remains secure without the need for tedious manual updates to every individual file in your system. In this way, you automatically apply a filter to Copilot on the data, which otherwise you would have had to do by changing the label, and they are bringing this approach to email as well. In this case, it's not email with a label, but rather email based on where it comes from.
Of course.
This is a good new development.
Interesting.
Okay, another thing is that roadmap, some say it's already more or less in preview, let's call it roadmap, is that it's a feature that works on individual files. This means that if you put a file protected by a policy inside a zip file, an archive, the policy was basically ignored because the file was inside an archive. Now, however, WP will be able to open archive files, like zip files, for example, to check whether the files inside that archive are covered by a policy or not. So this closes a gap because there were people who played Spore. They would put the file inside a RAR or zip file or whatever. And they would send it out because they managed to bypass the policies. But now the DLP policies go inside the archive to look at the contents and determine whether there's a risk or not. I'm not sure if this is already available or if it's something that should be coming around August. So if not now, then in a few weeks.
That is certainly good to know. Now let's look at the announcement regarding view-only role management.
Some capabilities have been added to the global reader and security reader roles that they didn't have before, allowing them to see certain purview information, particularly purview roles and scopes and permissions. It makes life a bit easier.
They actually went ahead and asked a very specific question. Should we use only zip files, or is it possible to also use RAR files in the meantime?
Both zip and RAR, there are these various formats. So
it supports TAGs and other similar formats like that.
With a password.
Right, with a password. It means that if there's a zip file with a password and you need to look inside, but you can't open it, you block it. Samsung is the one, I don't know, in this specific case. No, in my opinion, Andrea, it's not about auto-labeling. It's about the fact that you can apply they are
objects that already have a label.
You can implement and configure DLPs that function in a variety of different ways if there are specific sensitivity labels involved in the process. So the behavior changes depending on the label that's passing through, on the object that's passing through. If you hide it inside a zip file, actually that DLP is being tricked because it wouldn't trigger.
If you have a label that says internal high security and you don't want to send that object outside and you block it with a label, someone would do a workaround and say, well, I'll just put it in a zip, attach it to an email and send it out. And at that point, Purview would ignore it because he saw the zip. He couldn't see the contents inside. With
the way the question is phrased, in my opinion, it's a bit difficult.
I think it goes through, meaning it doesn't get evaluated because how could it get into the merits? I say
quite the contrary. I actually believe that it simply ends up being dropped.
Or it gets dropped, sure.
Like antivirus programs, when I can't look at the contents, I assume there's something wrong inside.
Of course.
It also depends on how you set it up there. But then you get into a discussion about things like Defender for cloud apps, other types of protections. I mean, it's not that easy to say, if I attach a password protected zip file, I'll just drop it. Right now, if it's not that simple.
It's something that at the moment, I'm not even sure can be tested on incoming mail. It is possible.
All right, then. We are going to bypass the section for Exchange. I
want to thank everyone who asked those questions about this fantastic feature that only 2 people in the world use because they did it on purpose just to avoid talking about Exchange.
But that is simply not true. It is not true at all. And absolutely nobody has paid them anything.
I'll connect back to your comments about Purview because there's a new category in the high confidence phishing section. So it's categorized under high confidence phishing, where the system understands that the attack isn't phishing aimed at the human who will read the email, but rather it's an attack with microcode inside designed to deceive those who summarize emails. This type of attack isn't visible to the person, but the system that reads the email and generates summaries picks up information that isn't actually there for the human reader, but is only present for the system. These types of attacks are classified as prompt injection protection. So you can find this label in that category within Defender XDR's hunting feature to check if you've already received emails of this kind. Why is this? This type of attack is used to target artificial intelligence. So when you ask it for summaries or ask what you should do, it induces the system to give you certain responses. It induces the system to give you certain answers.
It leads into temptation.
It leads you into temptation to make you call or do things that aren't actually written in the email, but are summarized in this way. So these types of attacks, they're starting to appear. And the fact that even Purview allows you, which I just read now, because the nice thing, and let's tell our viewers, is that each of us focuses on the updates that caught our attention and adds them to this list. And then sometimes we all discuss them together here. The fact that there is an option to say, don't give all emails coming from outside to the AI content is also for this very reason. Because they're starting to attack the agents, not us. It's a higher level phishing.
Yes, so there's this new category, the white text on a white background. Flaminio is suggesting, anyway, Flaminio said he's interested in exchange.
Second,
I don't think that's true. In fact,
he messaged me and said, I wouldn't have time. Shall we talk at 12:01? I said, sure.
He even gave you the details to send him the bank transfer.
We still have 2 minutes in the last slide. So what are you teasing me about? In the end, I'm always on time.
No one is saying anything. So
let's talk about something else serious. It will be possible to do cross-tenant message recall. It will be possible to recall messages even between different tenants. But be careful. First of all, it's a feature that you have to enable, but be careful. When you enable it, you configure what others can do to you, not what you can do to others. So theoretically, you can recall as many messages as you want, but only on tenants that have authorized your tenant for message recall. So as an administrator, you enable or disable this feature in your tenant, and then you have to specify the other tenants that are allowed to do this to you. You have to enter the tenant ID. Now, sometimes you don't know the tenant ID of another tenant because you don't have access to their entry ID, but there's a great
website for that.
Really? Why do we have to give the one in English? I did it in Italian, my tenant ID actually, sorry, other. No, that's not true. It was done by
the sales department. Davide
Resoli. So Davide Resoli created mytenantid.it. Go there, enter the email address of the domain to which you want to allow access for message recall, extract the tenant ID, and then enter it in the configuration under web sender tenant ID. So it's the sender who sends to you, and you authorize them to perform the recall in one of your mailboxes. And it works exactly the same way as the other method.
So there's a comment that says, I mean, it hardly ever worked, not even at your place, but it should
work. But why? Because there are some settings that need to be configured. Well,
so it's absolutely dreadful, even with the exact same tenant involved. Let's take a closer look and study it.
No, because there are some particular conditions and it's not always recalled. But generally, it's useful when you've sent an email, it hasn't been read, and you can recall it.
The condition is if the recall would actually be useful, then it doesn't work. It should be like that. I think that's the test.
It absolutely will never function properly. And
as technicians, we only get the problems. I mean, maybe it worked 1,000,000 times. The one time it didn't work, they open a ticket for us. And obviously,
as a user, I can tell you that starting from 105.5, it never worked. I mean, if you tried.
All right. Thanks for the consideration. But I'm the one who comes to say that Purview things don't work. So there you go. Anyway, we can move on. The next time we'll see friends and family will be Friday, September 4th from 11 to 12.
Exactly. As teachers, we do. Well, some take vacations, some don't, or some have already taken them. We will look forward to seeing you again on the 4th of September with another incredibly lively, vibrant, and sparkling episode just like this one. As always, we want to express how much we truly thank you for your wonderful participation. And we would also like to remind you to please like the videos. I am sorry for repeating it so often, but I have noticed it can be very useful because it really helps us grow the YouTube channel, which is obviously something that is very important to all of us here. Thank you again for everything. Thank you all. Thank you all and have a great weekend.
We've lost Fabri, but you can find the slides on our GitHub repository. I'm going to upload today's slides right now. Thank you all. Thank you all.
And
see you soon.